Hello and welcome to the video. This is chapter 1 of Poker Fundamentals, where we're going to be looking at your core strategy. I've identified this precise spot to be the core strategy. It's going to be 40 big blinds deep, tournament poker with antes. You're in the hijack, you're against the big blind, or obviously vice versa, you're in the big blind, you're against the hijack. And the theory is, if you can learn how to play hijack versus big blind and big blind versus hijack, 40 big blinds deep, you can just extrapolate upon this core strategy, develop a game plan based on adding extra filters onto this strategy. So we're just going to look at really simple pre-flop stuff in the first part, but as we go on, we're going to look at different flip textures and how it changes the strategy. We're going to look at different bet sizes and how it changes the strategy. We're going to look at ICM and how it changes the strategy. If it's a free bet part, how it changes the strategy. The only thing that really matters with poker is your range and your opponent's range, because that's going to completely determine how you should play your strategy. So in further videos, I am going to look at exploits and how to adjust against people too, because I know a lot of people watching this are going to be thinking, well, I don't open king 4 suited in the hijack as this range does, or maybe I always open pocket twos, or the other person I'm playing against opens 4-3 suited. When you look at solver data, it's not about thinking this is exactly how I should play, this is what I should do every time. It's about developing that fundamental poker strategy of, okay, here's what I do in a vacuum, here is the unexploitable strategy, and here's how, why, when I'm going to change it based on the moment. And you want to develop your intuition. So if you're playing poker, you're against a random group of people, or you're playing online, or you're in whatever context you're in, that you can layer on these different strategical filters to then know what to do in game intuitively. So we're starting pretty basic. We're just looking at pre-flop stuff, but things will become more and more advanced as we go on. So what we're looking at here is a GTO output of pre-flop ranges. These ranges have been constructed because this is a table. This is an 8-handed table of tournament poker, although it's just chip EV, and it's using a 2.3x raise size, and the solver has outputted that these are the hands you can raise. This is the EV it's worth if everyone else is a solver. And so you can see that the blue hands are just fold, the orange hands are raises, and the hands which are a mixture of blue and orange are going to be fold sometimes and raises sometimes, so a mix. So if I change this to strategy without the EV and we go into 10-9 offsuit, we can see that a solver is going to raise 24% of the time here. But it's just something to note that 10-9 offsuit, 6-9 suited, 5-4 suited, pocket twos, King 9 offsuit, these are the worst hands that you're going to open because you're not going to open them every time. If you go back to strategy plus EV, this is a good sense of seeing how hands match up with each other. So you can see Queen 6 suited, 0.01 big blinds, Jack 7 suited, 0.01 big blinds. That's how much on average you're going to make if everyone plays perfectly against each other. But it's nice to kind of match hands to get a sense of where you're at. So like Ace 2 suited, for example, if you compare that to a suited king, it matches to about King 8 suited. Or like pocket threes is actually not worth very much. Pocket twos is indifferent. It's worth 0, so it's not even playing every time. And there's a few reasons why some of these hands are better or worse in this situation, which we'll get to. And GTO Wizard is really good in that you can actually see the negative EV of opening too wide as well. So if everyone played perfect and you open 4-3 suited, it would be worth minus 0.18 as part of your strategy. It would be a terrible play because 4-3 suited is a very bad hand, especially at 40 big blinds deep. You don't want to open this hand. So that's just a little example of how you can use these solver outputs to then build your strategy. So just to give a kind of an overview of this range, you can see all the suited aces are in there. Every single Broadway combo is in here. So even the offsuit Jack 10, offsuit King 10. So everything Broadway is playing, everything suited ace is playing, most suited kings, a lot of suited queens, all the suited connectors. But as the cards get lower, they start to play less. Like 7-5 suited is not in there, 9-6 suited is mixing, 5-4 suited is mixing, pocket twos is mixing. We will in later videos compare this to different stack depths and see why some hands become better or worse as you're deeper or more shallow. For now, I'll just say you want bigger cards in general. Hands like King 5 suited are going to massively outperform a hand like 7-5 suited at this particular stack depth. It's worth getting a sense of why that is. Some people would play 7-5 suited but not play King 5 suited, so it's good to get your head around the ranking order of these hands. And how does the big blind respond? We have a new color now, which is red, because the solver uses 2 different free bet sizes. The red is like the big free bet size, the orange is the smaller free bet size, green is call, blue is fold. So you can see the big blind is supposed to play a lot of hands here. They're only supposed to fold 34% of the time. Which is just the trash offsuit hands. They don't fold any suited hands. There's 10% free betting, which is quite a lot as well. Most people don't get to these frequencies. So there's just 3 concepts I wanted to talk about between these ranges. Because whenever you play poker, you want to be thinking of what's the difference between my range and my opponent's range. I'm just going to say the big blind calls, and I'm going to give a 2-2 free flop just so we can have a look at something. Because if we go to the ranges tab here, you can see the range versus range breakdown. You can see on the left is the big blinds range, on the right is the hijacks range. As some of them are half full because they're mixed frequencies, we saw that King 9 offsuit wasn't always playing. 5-3 offsuit was a hand that wasn't always calling, but was calling sometimes in the big blind, that's why it's not always there. But here's the first concept I wanted to explain. This is the concept of asymmetry. You can see it in the hijacks range, pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks, pocket tens, pocket nines. If you see the big blinds range, these hands are not there because from the big blinds point of view, these hands are going to re-raise already. You also have ace king, ace queen, these hands are going to re-raise, and sometimes ace jack, sometimes jack eight suited. Like that's why some of these hands are kind of a little bit lower because they're re-raising pre sometimes. That's always something to consider when you're thinking about range v range. Where is the asymmetry? What are the hands that I can have that my opponent can't have, and vice versa? So in this case, the big blind has a lot of 2x. They have all of these suited twos. How many twos do we have as the hijack here? We have ace two suited. We have sometimes pocket twos. If there are two twos on the board, like in this case, it's actually going to make a reasonable difference that the big blind is actually going to hit trips way, way, way more than enough. Whereas if the board was ace high or king high, or even a 10 high board, then the pre-flop aggressor is going to have more top pairs, more strong top pairs, more overcards, and more over pairs. This is the main difference between the two ranges. So the next property of ranges I wanted to talk about was composition. If we go back to the pre-flop range here, just by looking at these hands, it's kind of counterintuitive to the human brain because you can just see ace king suited, ace king off, pocket kings. It looks like they're all kind of the same, but in reality, ace king suited, there's only 4 combinations because there's 4 suits. Pocket kings, there's 6 combinations. There's 6 combinations of every single pair. And the offsuit hands, there's 12 combinations of. So anytime that you're playing against someone's range, the hands that they usually have the most of are the offsuit hands. So in this case, king queen offsuit, there's 12 combinations. King jack offsuit, 12 combinations. Queen jack offsuit, 12 combinations. Whereas king jack suited, 4 combinations. Queen eight suited, 4 combinations. Pocket eights, 6 combinations. So in terms of the composition of the range, offsuit hands are usually the biggest portion of a range. Maybe they do play all these suited eights, but because they play all of these offsuit broadways, they're definitely going to hit Broadway cards more often than they're going to hit eights, just because there's more of them as a part of the range. So the last factor of ranges I want to talk about was the actual combinations of hands, or we can call this dilution. For anyone that doesn't know, there's 1,326 starting hands in Texas Hold'em. And in this case, the hijack raises 389 of them, which is 29.4% of total hands. Whereas if we go to the big blind actually plays more like 65% of hands. So when we go to the flop and we actually look at range versus range, you see the combos here. The hijack has 382 combos of hands, whereas the big blind has 687 combinations of hands. It's all well and good that the big blind might have more combos of a 2, but these combinations of 2s are massively diluted by the fact that they also have all the combinations of 3s and all the combinations of 4s and 5s and all of these offsuit hands. King 7 offsuit, Queen 7, like all these have 12 combinations as well. I would say that the big blind's range is massively diluted from the fact that there is just so many hands being played. And that's going to massively change the strategy when we look at playing against the button or playing against the small blind, because they play way less hands, so their hands are much less diluted, much more of a dense range, and kind of easier to range people sometimes because there's just less things to think about. That was the main 3 factors about the ranges I wanted to talk about, because it should get you thinking about the right things when you're playing against someone else. How is their range composed? How is their range potentially diluted or condensed? If you raise under the gun and you get called by under the gun +1, their range is very condensed because they're not calling very many hands in that situation. I will expand on these as we go through the course, but I just wanted to start off kind of simple, just how range versus range looks. The other thing with these strategies, it's a raise only strategy, so we're not implementing any limps here, at least not yet. We're using a 2.3x size. If you raise to a smaller size, you'd be able to raise a little bit more often. As I said, just because the solver says this is the strategy, I'm not saying that's the strategy you should do. I'm saying you should start with this point, and then as we go on, we'll talk about how we can change that, why some things are good ways to exploit people, potentially to exploit recreational players, or potentially to exploit regs. There's definitely numerous things you can do to your strategy to make it much harder to play against you, even for regs. You want to be tough to play against. It's going to generate more EV. You're going to have a higher win rate. Going back to the big blind, looking at some of these free bets, you might play against people that don't find any of these free bets. We can look at how the strategy will change when I change the range of the big blind and I take away a lot of these bluffs and I just give them a very value heavy free bet range. We can look at how that changes how we play free bet bots, and we can look at how that changes we play single raise pot. But for now, we're just looking at the pre-flop ranges, have a good sense of these ranges. Offsuit Broadways, very powerful. Any 2 suited cards above a 7, powerful. Pocket threes and better. Suited kings, and then you can kind of see it like stairs, like you're kind of walking up the stairs here, right? Like ace 2 suited, king 4 suited, queen 6 suited, jack 7 suited. And then the 7s are the ones we all play. It's kind of a little staircase here too. Ace 8 to king 9 to then all the 10s. And it kind of comes back down here as the hand gets more connected. And for suited connectors, I think a lot of people overvalue these hands. 5-4 suited, 6-5 suited, 7-6 suited. We do want to play just the exact suited connectors as they get lower, but they're not exactly the best hands in the world. Like your 9-6 suited, you can play it. There's definitely going to be situations where you're going to want to fold this, and there's definitely going to be situations where you're going to raise this pure. This is just the starting point. If you're not raising some of these hands, I think you should put yourself out there and just raise with them, see what happens. If you end up in uncomfortable situations, that's how you learn. As for the big blind range, you'd never fold a suited hand. That's really easy to remember. Not even 7-2 suited. You never fold a connector that can make all the straight. So there's a big difference between 4-3 off and 5-4 off, because 5-4 off can make the ace 2-3 nut straight. 4-3 off doesn't have that ace 2 king straight, so it's kind of cut off. It becomes quite significantly worse than 5-4, but it looks like you can even call with 5-3 off, 6-4 off, 7-5 off mixing, 8-6 off mixing. And again, there's kind of a staircase, ace-2 off to king-4 off to queen-6 off. This is like the reverse of the suited hands for the hijack, so again, quite easy to remember. Jack-7 off can defend, 10-7 off can defend. As we said with the other mixes, there might be reasons to pure call 7-5 off, there might be reasons to pure fold 6-4 off suit, depending on the context of the game and the other factors. We're going to get into that as we go on, but I hope that was a nice introduction to your core strategy. It's hijack versus big blind. It's 40 big blinds deep. We just looked at ranges. We just got a sense of the ranges. In the next video, I'm going to go on to flop textures, and then I'm going on to bet sizes. We're going to start very simple, and things are going to become more complicated. But the idea of this is take the complicated and make it as simple as possible. So that was chapter 1, your core strategy, hijack versus big blind. Get to grips with it. Make sure that you can play it, know it in and out. We will develop from there. That's your starting point. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next chapter.